landlords to try to take care of their property.
Right, and the other thing is, you know, landlords I think get a bum rap in the city.
Oh yeah. We work. You know, we sometimes work like a mayor, 24 hours a day.
Right. I mean, you have leaky sink. I have furnace doesn't work.
Exactly.
First, yeah, the furnace calls are always in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Middle of the night and the snowstorm.
Exactly.
You know, you're part of our business community. You know, it's more than just downtown that supports the city of Oneonta. We tax you and your properties just like we do businesses.
Yes.
And you're probably not happy about it, but we all get services and we're all part of the community in that respect. And, you know, not every landlord's a slumlord.
No. No, I certainly don't have that reputation. Now, how do you see your positions on these landlord issues differing from the other two candidates? So what would you say, what do you bring to the table, that, especially talking to the landlords, that would make a difference?
The big thing that I bring to the table is the fact that, one, I was a student renter here. I lived on Cliff Street, which is roughly, you know, 98% students. And it's not the greatest caliber of housing down there, at least when I was there 10 years ago. But my house that I was in, you know, I ended up renting and fixing up the house at the same time. And I got a great respect for, you know, the great architecture that we have here, and, you know, what, you know, a well kept rental property type of people it attracts. You know, so one, I was a college renter. After I left that property, I purchased my first home, and that property was a property that was run down. It was a student rental that was, you know, every dime was sucked out of it in rent, and no repairs ever went into it, and everything had to be, you know, every piece of every wall had to be re-sheetrocked, plumbing, electrical, furnaces, roof, paint, windows, everything. The house had to be totally gutted and redone. That was my first property, and it was a duplex. The only reason I bought that was because I needed to rent it out in order to afford the home. So I was a renter. I was a landlord. It's tough being a landlord, and I realize that. It's hard having you know, putting an ad in the paper and having to deal with people that, you know, you're scared to death of, like, oh, I don't know if this guy's going to pay rent, and hey, maybe this person just cleaned up to trick me, and
can't even find it for the time.
So you know, I realize that there's some tough things, and being a landlord for 2 years, I realize how hard it really is, and that it's not, you know, all fun and games, that there's always problems, and besides having your normal 9-to-5 job, you know, you're also doing this job at any hour, like you said, you know, and the furnace always breaks on the snowstorm, and, you know.
If you look at the roster, I think probably 80% of the landlords own like one property, and they're probably working a full-time job and having this.
So, and I ended up fixing my houses and renting my houses while I still worked a full-time job. Now, I ended up selling that house, and I bought another rundown student rental on Elm Street. So now I'm between, you know, two fraternity houses, and, you know, this was another house that was, you know, every dime sucked out of it. Instead of investing in it because it was past a certain point of return, they just kept renting it until it was unrentable and on the verge of.
So I think you're saying that, having been a landlord yourself, that's one of the positive features, is that you have more empathy and respect.
Correct. And it's not like every landlord isn't a slumlord. I realize that. You know, there's different caliber of all types of business owners, and but we all need to understand that on all of our properties, you know, the better quality property is, the better quality tenant generally you'll attract, and we all want to attract good tenants, and we all want tenants that pay, which is even more important.
Which was a kind of a contradiction with the summer rental, of trying to dampen that development, because that brings really high quality people in who have money to spend in the city, who generally are extremely fussy. We have to keep these houses a notch above all the rest.
Right.
So it didn't quite make sense.
The summer rental properties are great for gentrifying certain sections and the community. I mean, when I say that,
for Chestnut, because, you know, I mean, I've won on Chestnut Street because you uplift.
Right. I mean, and in some areas where properties have been run down for a while, there hasn't been investment, or it's a little too far away from the college to, you know, get the general college student, but it's still a great rental. It still keeps you here in the city.
Exactly.
this is a great opportunity for some of these houses. Some communities, I think the Walnut Street community, historic district community, they're against it.
Yeah.
Are there good reasons? Probably, but there's a lot of horror stories and fear. Change. Everyone fears change. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know right now it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be good or bad. A good place to go is, for people like that is to look at communities that have these things. Cooperstown, great example.
Right. The extra money, tourist money, allows you to maintain those older properties.
Right.
So I don't quite understand the logic of it. I understand the fear you're having, all kinds of strange people coming in and out week after week, that might disturb a neighborhood. But the fact of the matter is these people are at the school, baseball school, virtually the entire day. They come home late at night, they go out into the restaurants here in Oneonta, they spend money.
No, it's economic development. What we have to remember is it's the economy that drives, the demand for these, just as any rental in the city. And the economy also drives the ability to own property if you want a single-family home in the city. Rentals are a great way for first-time home buyers to get into a property and be able to afford payments on that property. And in order to afford the maintenance costs and taxes and everything else. I mean, that's what got me into a home, and that was even the buffer of why I purchased my second two-family home, was so that I could make sure that if times got tough, I didn't keep a job, I worked for a nonprofit, I could always, okay, it's a two-family home, there's an income, at least I'm not going to lose my house.
Yeah. What do you feel about the moratorium issue? I mean, when you have a downturn in the economy, you're going to have more renters, because less people can afford to own their homes, and then they're going to start renting, and so on.
Yep.
So it's all
the moratorium, if you think about the moratorium right now, what is it really stopping in the city? We already have 400 properties that don't have certificate of occupancies. Is it 200, 400? Some multiple hundreds. There's a problem there, and we can only get 20, 30 done in a month, inspections. So we have such a backlog. All these properties, the 200 or multiples that are out there, they're still renting without a certificate of occupancy. We didn't kick everybody out of these. So what are we really telling people that don't have certificate of occupancies or trying to make changes of property? Because these guys are grandfathered and they don't meet regulations, we're not going to allow new ones in. I mean, it's a mixed message. It's not the greatest tool, but at the same time, the city is trying to do the right thing. And I think there was the fear that, and this is a common fear across New York State, and sometimes it does push hasty decisions. If you don't have a moratorium in place and you're proposing changes to your zoning, people are going to try to push development in certain areas to make sure that they don't get blocked out of being able to do that in the long term. What we're doing right now is, we have a moratorium in place. I think it's set to expire in January now, and we have zoning regulations that we're working on. And the zoning regulations are going to be objective criteria. They are going to have some architectural or aesthetic guidelines to them, not law, but guidelines, suggestions. And if you can meet those objective guidelines and the aesthetic requirements, we should be able to fit just about any zone, any type of use anywhere, especially when it comes to residential. The residential changes really come down to, okay, are we going to allow apartment buildings, or is this in this zone, or just multifamily housing? There's a difference. There's a difference in numbers of units and things of that nature. That's pretty much the largest change in the zones. Right now, I think we have 8 different residential zones. Insane. Because you go half a block up Elm Street from where I live, and it goes to allow apartment buildings. Half a block down, and they're pushing more for single-family homes. And I'm somewhere in between. But we're knocking it down to 2 or 3 residential zones. That makes sense. The R1 zone that's being proposed still allows multifamily homes. The R3 allows multifamily, single family, all the way up to multifamily and apartment complexes and condos. So it's a better mix rather than the hodgepodge collection that we have today. And for most renters, I'm not sure anyone's ready to come into Walnut Street and put in an apartment building. No one's pushing for that, because as as a renter, as a developer, you're also looking at the community. If the community is all historic, stately, single-family homes, are you really going to go in there with a double wide? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. One, it ruins the. It doesn't keep the same value. This is an investment. You want to make sure your investment is going to. You can leverage your investment on what's the neighboring community. In certain areas,